Regular meeting in Clear Lake City Council of Monday, July 20th, 2020 shall come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dana, seconded by Mike, that we approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. To the consent agenda, you have a copy of the minutes of July 6, 2020. We need approval of the bills and claims, of which you also have a copy. We have the following licenses and permits: signing erector's license, Nagel Signs Waterloo renewal, and excavators licenses. John Reese Excavating Rockwell, Yonko Clear Lake, those are renewals. Mort's Water Company, Latimer, and Schleesner Dirt Works Garner, those are both new. Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Bennett, seconded by Mark, that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. We're at number 4, unfinished business, of which we have none. We'll jump to number 5, new business, urban revitalization plan, former Sunset School property review. Mr. Flory. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The blue sheet in your packet addresses this item. That's a proposal for professional services to prepare an urban revitalization plan for the former Sunset School property location. This, of course, is in furtherance of the anticipated future redevelopment of the Sunset School property. They're located at 408 Mars Hill Drive. Proposal in your packet is from Plantscape Partners, again, to prepare the urban revitalization plan. If you recall, we utilized Plantscape Partners previously when the One Vision campus project came forward, did the Glen Oaks urban revitalization plan, as well as the First Avenue South, the former Northland Glass property, utilized Plantscape to prepare that urban revitalization plan. Did want to point out that we also have another urban revitalization district plan on South 15th Street, and that's the parcel that we entered into the development agreement with a developer, the same developer that is proposing to do the future project at the Sunset School location. That developer, Dolly James from Cedar Falls, Waterloo area. But that particular plan I had prepared at that time, and at this point in time, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be able to devote the time to prepare this particular urban revitalization plan. So, and I'll go through that here in just a minute, but that's the blue sheet again in your packet. So, in the way of just some background, you may recall that back in 2018, the school district had sold the property, the former Sunset School property, to this particular developer, and they had an agreement with that developer that allowed them to continue to use the school property pending an addition onto the Sunset School property that was going to take about a year or so. So when the students moved into the addition onto the Sunset School property, then Sunset, on the Clear Creek property, Sunset became vacant. So it's sat vacant for close to about a year now. And so the urban revitalization law, chapter 404 in the Code of Iowa, of course, encourages the revitalization of dilapidated or blighted properties by providing a tax exemption opportunity for those projects. So just in the way of review, the plan that we put together for the One Vision Glen Oaks project provided for a 5-year 80% property tax exemption. The plan for First Avenue South provided for that same schedule of exemption, and then the plan for South 15th Street provided a 5-year 75% tax exemption for that. I do want to point out, we don't have yet, obviously, a development plan from the developer for the redevelopment of the Sunset School property. So this is really kind of the first step in what will be kind of a sequence of many different things that have to happen for that project to come to fruition. So preparation of the urban revitalization plan is just one step. It's kind of a long, detailed administrative process. So we propose to start that process now. That'll probably take till sometime mid-October to complete that process. The property itself, the vision and generally is for a market rate multifamily apartment type project to be developed there. So They'll have to go through a rezoning process. It's still zoned public right now from the school's usage of it, so there'll have to be a rezoning process, and that'll take place over the winter, so it's a good time to start some of these processes now. Then there's a site plan development that will have to happen as well. They also, part of the reason for the tax abatement urban revitalization plan is to enable the developer also to make an application to the state for what's called workforce housing tax credit. And that became relevant here for our South 15th Street project, the former city tin shed that's located there. The developer was able to make application this year to that. They had not made application the previous years because they had other projects. Only the second year's been offered, but they had other projects that they had made application for. So they had made application. Both Chad and I worked with them on their application to the state for these workforce housing tax credits, and found out Friday morning that they were approved. So they're anxious to get started on that project on South 15th Street. As you might recall, we've got the contractor for East Main. They're storing some materials and things like that. So they've been agreeable to working with us, but at some point here in the next couple of weeks, we'll have to move that stuff off of that site so that they can start the apartment building project on South 15th Street. So I think that speaks really well of the developer and the city that this was awarded this funding, because it's extremely competitive to get these workforce housing tax credits. So I think it speaks well of the project that they proposed for South 15th Street, and they want to position themselves to be able to make a similar application for the Sunset School property for next year. And hopefully if that, again, is funded at that time, then we would be looking at probably groundbreaking on a project there, mid-July or August of 2021. So just looking at the proposal from Planscapes, just kind of go through that here with you real quickly. Again, you've seen these things before in 3 other plans, but essentially the scope of services is to prepare an urban revitalization plan that would comply with Chapter 404 of the Code of Iowa. There's a resolution of necessity that the consultant would prepare that would be used for council adoption. Of course, attendance at council meetings when those things are considered. There's also a public hearing notice that would have to be prepared and coordinate the publication of that in the newspaper. There's also public hearing notices that have to be mailed to affected property owners in the area, so coordination of that effort. Then a resolution to adopt the plan as well. Preparation of the ordinance designating the urban revitalization district. Then, of course, adoption of the resolution and ordinance would be considered following a public hearing of the council. And then, again, just filing the plan with the city and the county. It has to be filed with the treasurer's office as well. So the fee for that is $2,500 to Planscape. So I thought that was pretty reasonable. So I don't have anything further in terms of that, unless anyone has any questions about that.
Scott, we have the same 2 contacts with regard to the development as we've had.
Yep, they're the principals, so Brent Ahlstrom and Jim Salentik. Eco Development is their corporation. Have another corporation called Dolly James as well, so they would be the developers not only of the South 15th Street site, but Sunset School as well. And they also are the owners of the landing here in town.
Council, any questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott. Therefore, I entertain a motion to approve professional services proposal with Planscape Partners.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Gary, seconded by Mike, that we approve the professional services proposal with Planscape Partners with regard to urban revitalization plan at the former Sunset School property. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you. 5B, professional services agreement, $700,000 general obligation wellness center financing review. Mr. Flory.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The green sheets in your packet address this item. I just mentioned the mayor introduced him earlier, but he's on the phone call this evening, Chip Schultz with Northland Securities. So we've negotiated a proposal with Chip and Northland on this matter, basically to provide placement services for our planned issuance of a $700,000 general obligation debt for the upcoming Wellness Center project. The fee that I noted in the packet is 1.15% of the total par amount that would be issued for this. And, you know, Chip and I had a conversation on this, that right now does appear to be a good time, that there has been some stabilization in the municipal debt market here, so it seems to be a more attractive time now than earlier in the spring, for sure. So we look at the summer now as a good opportunity to be placing this debt. So essentially, the scope that Chip and Northland would be assisting the city is with working with our bond counsel, of course, on structuring the debt and placement of the debt. But we're really looking at targeting interest here locally to the local banks. I think the local banks would have a strong interest in the private placement of this. So their Northland services then would enable us to provide a transparent and efficient process as possible for the placement of this debt. But once the construction bids on this project are taken and awarded, and Scott and Mark are going to be giving you a presentation here momentarily, just as an update on the Wellness Center project itself. But, you know, we have a mid-August bid letting on that, so we anticipate following the award of the contract then that we would start the process here of working with the local banks to accept bid proposals for the placement of this debt issuance, and that anticipating the delivery of funds would occur sometime probably around mid to late October of this year. I did also have Chip run just a quick debt schedule for us on this, and just kind of looking at it. Linda and I have been kind of analyzing what structure we want to probably prefer. So we've looked at both a 5-year and a 10-year note on this particular issue, and we think, you know, Chip has put together some numbers for us. So we think we'll come in at 1% or less on both of those, and we think we'll be probably more in that probably 0.75% range on a 5-year note. So again, probably a good time to be issuing this debt, and I think our local banks have been very good about their interest in these kinds of issues before, and we've had no trouble placing it here locally, and all of the banks in the past have been very interested in Clear Lake's debt. So I think in terms of the actual property tax implications, we talked a lot about this when we had some of our town hall meetings on the Wellness Center project, but for a home with an assessed value of $100,000, so you could factor this per $100,000, on the 5-year note, I think we were looking at somewhere around 95 cents a month additional in terms of the taxes required to retire this debt. However, I want to point out that while this will add about $140,000 annual debt service payment, let's say for the 5-year note, we are retiring the debt on the fire station issue in June, and that's $240,000. So even when I say we're adding this debt, the net effect is a decrease, because even though we'd be adding a debt service payment of $140,000, prior to that coming on the books, we would have $240,000 coming off for the fire station. So we'd still be decreasing our debt load by about $100,000 there. So I don't have anything further on that professional services agreement proposal, unless anyone has any questions. Chip, I don't know if you could hear so much of that, but if you had anything you wanted to add.
I certainly can hear, and Scott, as always, that was incredibly thorough and really covers everything that I had intended to talk about. If there were questions, I'm happy to answer those, but that's a good synopsis, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with the city. Thank you.
Council, any questions of Scott or Chip? Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Chip. Appreciate your being on tonight.
Thank you.
Therefore, council will entertain a motion to approve a professional services agreement with Northland Public Finance. Motion, please.
So offered.
Second.
By Mike, seconded by Mark, that we approve the professional service agreement with Northland Public Finance with regard to professional service agreement of $700,000 general obligation wellness center financing. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you. 5C, Wellness Center Project Presentation. Intro, Mr. Floyd.
Council, I did nothing in your packet on this item, but in particular, Bennett and I have been meeting with a group from the school and the consultant for quite a while on this now, and I don't know about him, but I was really excited to see the presentation that they had put together for our final meeting here prior to the bid letting. And so invited Scott and Mark here from Atura, who's the architect for the project, to give the council an update and a presentation on what it looks like. And I think you're going to be very impressed. It's I think, a terrific fly-through, if you will, I guess you could call it, of the building itself. And really, I think it's an exciting work that they've done and on a very exciting project for Clear Lake. And, I just would only, just to digress for a moment, Nelson mentioned the other day about a lot of the positive and exciting things going on in the community. And this is certainly one of those. This is like about an $11 million project and something that I think has been needed for a long time in our community. And so just happy to be part of this project, working with the school district. And I think it's been a really nice collaboration up to this point for sure. There's certainly additional steps that we have to do yet, development of the 2080 agreement between the city and the school on the operating of the structure and so forth. But certainly up to this point on, going through. And I can tell you, we've really gone through this carefully. And I think Bennett can attest to that. Pretty well every meeting, we meet every 2 weeks, and it's usually at least 2 hours every meeting. And we've gone through a lot of room by room, literally, of what we want this facility to look like and function and operate. So a lot of time, a lot of thought has been put in ultimately to what you're going to see here tonight. So I think it's just very impressive and anxious for you to see it. So I don't have anything further unless anyone has any questions, but Mark and Scott are going to walk through the PowerPoint here with you. So.
Questions, Scott, Council? Thank you, Scott. Welcome, Scott, Mark, and Austin's here too. Atura Architecture.
Well, Scott gets it connected here. Just to kind of tie in with what Ms. Flory says, we've been meeting regularly with Ben himself and the school personnel just to go through it. And like I said, every 2 weeks, just to make sure we can go through this. It's a very large building and a lot of details we wanted to make sure we ironed out before it went out to bid. And it currently is out to bid, so it's been advertised. Currently, we've got 9 general contractors that are interested in taking out a set of plans and are looking at it. So right now, the bid environment is very competitive, so I think it's a good time that we're getting this out. And we received bids August 13th, and hopefully, assuming everything goes well, it's like to start construction in September with completion December of 2021. So the biggest goal is to get it done before Christmas the following year. That way, any New Year's resolution people losing weight,
Right.
myself included, probably is, can get a membership. So I'll kind of let Scott walk you through it.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do here, this is our digital model of it. I'm just gonna run through it. It's essentially kind of like a video game. It just renders it up and we can walk through it in real time. So if there's any areas you wanna look at closer or have questions along the way, just feel free to ask them and I can stop and look at whatever you need. But here we're sitting outside of it. Those that aren't as familiar with the project, this will be added on to the south of the existing school at basically connecting up to the locker rooms on the south side of their gymnasium there. Use most of that field heading to the south, and as well as adding some parking to the east of that area as well. And there would be a storm retention pond across 20th Street to the east from the building to handle all the storm water from the site. But here you're looking at the outside of the building. There's kind of 2 main volumes to it. This back volume, when we get inside, that runs behind the building. That is pre-engineered building and would be the field house portion. So it's a clear span. That's where your track and a lot of your athletic courts will be. And we have this 2-story portion up front that I would call more your general fitness center. That upstairs is going to have all of your cardio and weight equipment. Downstairs has studios for classes and all that sort of stuff, as well as your locker rooms. So in general, that's exterior. We'll go ahead and run inside on it and then just kind of take a look around on the thing. But yeah, fair amount of glass, trying to get pretty good daylight in there, make it so you don't have to use your lights inside quite as much. Come inside, immediately when you get in, you have your front reception desk area, counter, where your employees, whoever's managing it, will work. The director of the facility will have an office, as well as there'll be a storeroom / employee room for where they keep all of their equipment that you can check out. As well as kind of in this main lobby area, over here would be a cafe and concession area with some seating. Kind of the plan behind that is, one, if the school has a track meet in there, or say there's an AAU event that comes in for a tournament, they'd be able to sell concessions out of there and get a little revenue. As well as we'd have it set up to be flexible for the future if the city wants to put, you know, an actual cafe in there, or a smoothie protein shake bar, or something to kind of go with the fitness theme and pull a revenue stream off of that. They'd be able to do that as well. Also in the lobby here, start to look around, we have your stair going upstairs. This main corridor we'll go down in a moment is where all your studios are loaded. And right up front with glazing and seating in front of it. It's not fully rendered in back there, but this will be where the indoor playground takes place. So the theme behind that is parents would watch the kids. It's not a daycare, so to speak. It's, you know, here it'd mostly be parents watching, but you could sit, talk to your friends, put the kids in there, let them have fun and go to town, you know, burn off some steam. In the back of the facility this way, you have your locker rooms. Those for dressing up. You have a men's and women's that are fairly similar. Some burnished block in there to make it look nice, kind of like a fitness center. You'd have all your standard, you know, restrooms, sinks, all that. Lockers that would be available for rental for day passes or permanent rental for a year or however long the person wishes to rent. Each of the locker rooms would also have a sauna in it for both the men's room and the women's, and you would have showers in the back of the locker rooms there, including ADA showers. Come back out, go ahead and go down the hallway over here. Men's locker room's just across the way. You come down this hallway, you have both your circulation upstairs and your elevator for the facility. Kind of on the right side of this corridor will be loaded your studio spaces. So this would be your first studio, which is actually a double-sized one. So you have two studios in here, and that's probably where you'd have your yoga class, your spin class. You could rent them out to, you know, other community groups, whatever they're looking to do. This one would have a divider, curtain, or an operable partition that could come down and split it into two rooms. All of these rooms would have access also out to the field house. Got a couple family restrooms that would also have a shower in them for people who bring their children to the facility and don't want to use the actual locker rooms. If a mom brings her sons or whatever, they'd be able to use those rooms. This we're just calling Kids Zone, but this is essentially, once again, it's not a daycare, but it'd be a room that would be staffed with people to watch children just temporarily, so that gives it the ability for a parent to bring their kids with them to the center, drop them off there. They can be watched while they go do their half-hour, 45-minute class that they're signed up for, or do their workout upstairs, then come back down, pick their kids up, and head on out or hit the playground. So it kind of gives them the flexibility to use the center. This multi-purpose 2, that's the same studio that got divided in half. And we'd have one down here on the end as well. This one has acoustical tile in it. It'll end up being carpeted. That, once again, can have some fitness, kind of lighter fitness classes in it, as well as be able to be rented out as a community space for meetings, birthday parties, whatever it may be. Down this way, you just got another stair to upstairs, as well as your mechanical room. Oops, sorry, went in the ceiling there. There we go. So we jump down to this end. As you come out this way, this curtain here would be able to retract back up. We have it shown down, and that's just for when people are on the turf here. If they're playing soccer or hitting baseball practice or fielding drills, keeps any projectiles from going into the lobby space. But the big field house, we're clear span. That thing's about 160 feet wide. You have a 200-meter track that runs around the perimeter of it, 4 lanes full around it. On the sprint stretch on the back here would be 6 lanes. You have a indoor turf field here striped for both soccer and football. And you'd have hardwood courts in the middle and some multi-purpose courts down on the end. We'll see them a little better when we pop upstairs here. Kind of at the back of the that was behind us where we were standing is also storage room and mechanical spaces for the building as well. But run up the main stair. When you get upstairs, it'll be mostly city functions up on the second level. You would have the fitness center over here where we're just showing some generic equipment in here, but this is where all your weightlifting would be, your machines, have some hit space kind of in the back corner there. Kind of over on this side where it's a bit nicer, have some glazing. You can put your cardio equipment in, get real good light in there for the people that are running or using the ellipticals. As well as at the back of this fitness area, we have an additional studio. This is mechanical room, that stairs to go downstairs. And we'd have an additional studio up here that you could run classes out of, kettlebell, whatever it may be, and get some good glazing in there as well. As you come out here, this is where your elevated walking track is, which is 3 lanes all the way around. So that thing would be greater than 200 meters because it's a little bit bigger than the track downstairs. And as you kind of come up to the rail, you can see you got your football field that's striped off there. You got basically 30 yards of hash marks. That's a futsal court, which is indoor soccer. You would have your hardwood courts in the middle. You have 2 full-size basketball courts, which would also be striped for volleyball. You have curtains that can drop down and divide off the perimeter of this as well as the center, just to split that off from the other functions. That way you can have basketball going on while you have soccer going on the turf, while you have pickleball going on the multi-purpose. The goal of this facility was to make it usable as many functions at a time. And also that we have this elevated track, so even if the school's downstairs using the indoor track, your walkers can still come in from the community and have space to walk. Or if there's a basketball game going on here for AAU, you could still have community playing pickup games on the multi-purpose courts down here and so forth. As we kind of run down to the end of the track here, you'll see this multi-purpose area. I'll go a little quicker. This area will be striped off, kind of overlaps the track some, but you would once again have 3 more courts down there, full size for basketball, for volleyball, 3 pickleball courts within the center of this track, 2 more that overlap the track. You can do 3 tennis courts there, as well as a multitude of other sports. So again, plan there was to just make it as highly functional as possible. And again, back on this side is where all your storage and mechanical is loaded, and there's a mechanical penthouse off of the roof on this end. And that is in a real quick review, the building and the functions that are in it. If you have any questions on any of the items in there, we'd be glad to talk about them further. Kind of the way the project is budgeted and split up is this field house, pretty much all of the field house portion here would be handled by the school. That would be in their pot where the money comes from. The city functions are primarily just the items that the school can't justify on their bond as, and they can't justify it as being a benefit to their students. Easiest example is saunas in the locker room. Obviously, the school can't justify why they need saunas for the students, so that falls into the city portion. The biggest chunk in the city portion is this down here, the second level fitness center. So essentially, the second floor is in the city portion because the school doesn't need the walking track when they have a running track downstairs. They don't need the fitness center because they have their own weight room in the building, which is also getting expanded separate from the from this wellness center project. Will be divided off, but that's how it's divided. If you have further questions on that, we can answer that, as well as obviously Mr. Flory and Councilman Smith, Mayor Crabb have all been in on the design discussions and can walk you through those. So if there's no questions, we'll.
I missed a couple, several meetings, but we talked one time, maybe you just did, and I missed it, a steam room or steam rooms?
Yeah, so we ended up in the bid, we have saunas in the locker rooms.
Saunas,
So there's
okay.
a sauna in the men's locker room and a sauna in the women's. We ended up going with the saunas just due to there is a fairly significant initial cost difference in the two and a little bit of maintenance cost difference in them. So we kind of went that sauna route just to try and keep our number under control.
You know, this has been a nemesis in this particular building, and I know when the middle school, which at the time was the old junior high, HVAC is really important.
Yep.
And the specs for that to get it
Yep.
right. I mean, this building, I don't know how old it is, but we continually have issues with it as I recall they did with the old junior high, middle school, because no opening to the outside and the thermopane windows and, you know, so this would be really critical with as open
Yeah,
as much
and
space
this
as you
is,
got.
the design, the HVAC design for this is very detailed. Our HVAC, well, our MEP consultant, Twin Rivers Engineering they're down in Des Moines. They're very good at what they do, and they've been on this project, you know, basically for a year with us and looking at it very extensively and making it as efficient as possible, as well as we've partnered with Alliant Energy and Willdan. They do a commercial new construction program where essentially we work with them to find the most energy efficient options that fit the budget. And then in doing so, by proving we're more energy efficient, they give a kickback at the end to the customer as well for basically improving their energy efficiency. So it should be good there. Pretty much all of these spaces, all of those athletic rooms and studios, the whole thing's variable air volume. They all have VAV boxes in them. So essentially, each space individually is controlled by temperature and monitored. So when there's people in there working out hard and making it hot, the air conditioning will turn on and cool that down. But for the 2 hours that nobody's in there, it knows to cut itself off, so you're not burning extra power. And same with a lot of the day lighting we brought in, trying to minimize how much you're running those lights in there. Everything in there is LED to try and lower the power usage there. And mechanical systems in the back room there, you got a couple boilers, hot water boilers that are running the place. That way we're not just running it purely off of forced air. And you got some chillers in there as well. So they put some extensive time in trying to make this building as efficient as possible. So.
Sounds good. Where are the drop-down batting cages?
Those would be, so kind of we can see from this view, in the base bit of this project, they will be in this corner back here. So they will overlap the track a little bit. So essentially, there's a little bit of interference there that you'd only have a couple lanes open when the batting cages are down. There is, if we were on the exterior, that two-story portion, there's an alternate bid to add about another 2,100 square feet to the south onto that. And if that alternate goes, we would move those retractable batting cages into that large room on the first floor to get them off of the track. And again, those would be retractable, so even when they're up, you could still use that room for other functions.
This would be a school question, but retention pond is located where?
That will be east of the school so the east side of 20th Street. So we're going to pipe the stormwater across 20th. They have the practice fields out there.
Right,
On that east side, it will be the southern portion of that field east of the school.
Basically, the rate slopes down quite a bit.
Right, right.
And then we need to build berms on 3 sides to
Yeah.
basically retain that water, so, and then it'll outlet either north or south to city mains.
Down there by that bean field somewhere in there, I
Yep,
suppose.
Yep, right along there.
All right.
Mhm.
One more question, I'll shut up here. The flooring underneath the weights, any different? Because, you know, some of those guys like Flory will probably drop those things down there. And,
Yep. So we have a resilient athletic flooring in that area and in quite a few of the areas in this building that is rubberized flooring that's padded underneath it. And in the areas that have potential use to be weights, we've increased the thickness of that to handle those weights and anything that's dropped in those areas. So it's designed to handle weights being dropped. So.
A lot of the flooring we based on the Lee Recreation Center names on Iowa State University's campus. The manufacturer we specified for this, they've used it multiple times within that facility and continue going back to that manufacturer. The main floor running track is actually, could withstand using spikes if the school chose to allow spikes on it. And so that's how durable it is. And it's made for multi-use functions too, to have basketball courts on there as well as tennis and all the other functions of that.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to comment, thank the folks from Atura here, Scott and Mark and Austin. You guys have done a fantastic job with this. I mean, it's really fun to see this again. So we've really enjoyed working with you as a city, and I think it's just an incredible project. I mean, when you think of the weather we have around here, we always talk about the winters, but frankly, when it's 90 degrees or 94 with a heat index of 100, that's where I want to be, you know, so just my thanks for that. It's really an exciting project. And then also to thank Clear Lake Community School Districts for the partnership. I think Scott would agree this has been a terrific partnership approach. And of course, I really think that how we do that as a city, whether it's with a school district or nonprofits or the business community, I really think it's a thoughtful and proactive approach that our leadership team here in Clear Lake has done for many years, many years. So I just admire that and how that's been handled, and just really look forward to promoting this project for Clear Lake. I think it's the kind of amenity that will help to both retain population and frankly draw young families and others to Clear Lake, because again, with the weather and whatnot, it's just, I think, a fantastic project. So I'm looking forward to becoming a member.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All I can say is wow. I don't know if you can hear that through the mask, but wow. A little historical perspective. I've just come to the conclusion that I was born 55 years too early, because I did go to Clear Lake High School, and I don't remember anything like that. And the cinder track was outdoors. And then I went on to UNI, and you're thinking, wow, universities like that have to have a great facility. I ran track at UNI for 4 years on a dirt track under O.R. Latham football stadium. And literally they oiled the track so you didn't go home dusty, but you went home smelly. So anyway, I'm a little jealous. Then I taught at Clear Lake High for over 30 years and don't remember anything like that either. So more power to everyone. It should be fantastic. Thank you.
Any other comments, council, questions? The parking, the southeast parking lot that's already there, will that be expanded?
Yeah,
Then-
what the plan for that now is there's a base bid and an alternate to it. That southeast parking lot, the one that's kind of in the corner on
Right.
20th and First Street, the plan now is to actually remove that parking lot and reconstruct it. Mostly, again, due to stormwater, that parking lot does not currently have curb and gutter or any drains in it. It's a little bit of a hassle with the corner that it's on. So it's gonna be removed, built properly with a good base and sloped and curb and gutter to control that storm, and it will be larger too to handle the parking of the new facility.
So- Yeah, that's my,
Yep.
yes, yeah.
And base bid will just be concrete, but there'll be an alternate bid for pervious paving, similar to what you guys did out here in the parking lot. That's gonna be dependent on the school getting a grant for stormwater management.
Will they access then off of First Avenue North or 20th? Or
Both First Avenue as well as their curb driveway.
The circle drive for the school.
they won't have to go through the circular drive then at the high school? They can come right,
No, they can come right off.
community people is what I'm thinking, if they want to.
Yep.
Get caught up in that.
Right now, that parking lot only has access off of First Avenue.
Right.
It's, kind of a mess for
Mhm.
basketball games.
That was built as a tennis court. Gotcha, Callahan.
I don't think so. It was built as a parking lot, but a tennis court was added because when they added tennis, they didn't have any place to practice tennis except Lions Field.
Page 2. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, great to look forward to. And that's what we're here for. Thanks. 5D, Main Avenue Seawall Dock Ordinance Proposal Review. Mr. Flory, welcome, Scott.
Thanks again, Mayor Council. These are the purple sheets in your packet. This was brought forward by our Park Director, Randy Miller, asking for the council to consider implementing some rules and regulations for the Main Avenue Seawall City Dock. And how this process works is, so in this case, I've drafted kind of a concept for your consideration, but from the council's table this evening, if you're favorable to pursuing this, then we would send it to the Park and Rec Advisory Board, who would then review the ordinance, make any modifications or changes that they might see appropriate to it as well. And I think they meet this Wednesday evening. So they would propose any changes or recommendations, and it would come back to the council, including those changes and modifications for consideration for a first reading of the ordinance at your August 3rd meeting. So essentially the purpose, I'll just kind of go through some of the points of the ordinance. The purpose of the ordinance is to assure access to city docks by setting reasonable time limitations to improve and preserve the recreational purpose of the docks by limiting their use for recreational watercraft or vessels. The time limitation that I put together there in that section 1 just indicates again that the dock may be used by watercraft for no more than 3 continuous hours, and that again that would include when it's unoccupied, without an occupant, no more than 3 hours. The next section deals with commercial usage of the city dock, and just kind of go through these. Dock may be used incidental and in conjunction with commercial purposes, but such use shall be limited to dropping off, picking up, or docking boats and other watercraft, provided such use does not exceed 30 minutes per watercraft. Letter B, no more than 1 commercial vessel or watercraft shall be moored or docked at the facility at any one time by any one business renting watercraft to the public. C, commercial users of the dock facility shall provide for their own trash removal in conjunction with their business operations and not to use city trash cans available to the general public. D, any use of the city docks by a recognized boating or yachting organization within the time limits established by the ordinance are exempt from the requirements of this particular ordinance. Then on the other side, prohibited activities. Again, we had a little issue with this earlier. We did put some signs up down there, but again, worked with law enforcement, Park and Rec Department, and others to put some language into this. So early on, we had a lot of folks that it became very popular for swimming and diving off of the dock. So we did put a sign up, but law enforcement had asked that in order for that to be enforceable, that ultimately at some point we implement an ordinance. So we have, again, A, there, no person shall swim or dive from the dock for obvious safety reasons with boat activity there. B, no commercial activity will occur on the city docks unless it would be specifically authorized by an agreement with the city. C, vehicles are not allowed on the city dock except in the immediate transport of a bicycle to and from a vessel or the use of a vehicle that's necessary due to disability. Vehicles include but not limited to bicycles, scooters, skateboards, rollerblades, mopeds, motorcycles, and other self-propelled units. And then that violation penalty provisions or what were provided by law enforcement, so we've included that. So again, I don't have anything further. I do know some folks here that want to, I put an opportunity to address the council on for tonight. They had asked for a moment to speak to council about the draft proposal. If it should go to Park and Rec Advisory Board, they could also attend that meeting as well. And then ultimately, again, if it would come back, we'll have it here for your consideration again on August 3rd. So I don't have anything further in terms of any background on that unless anybody has any questions.
Council, any particular questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott. So the rest of this proposal will go as follows. We'll have the opportunity for public comment, and during that time, the public will have between 3 and 5 minutes to state your issue or concern. It will not be any give and take between the council and you. And then council, if they choose, may offer their comments thereafter. And then I'll ask council for a motion to refer this to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. So, Jim, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Jim Flick. This is my wife, Jennifer. And together we own, and I will say that we operate with our friend Angela Myers over there who's joined us tonight for support. Appreciate her all the time. A little short, brief history on us. We came to town about 5 years ago. I don't know if many of you know, but out on the highway, we started thinking we could sell a few cars and suddenly turned into a rental company. When we came to town 5 years ago, I will say from all the little towns we've been in before, we were instantly, amazingly impressed with the chamber and what all they did. It was such a different community than anywhere we'd been. And that encouraged us largely to expand and grow in the direction that we've gone. 5 years ago, we had a few canoes and kayaks and a paddleboard here and there, and we rented them, and we were just kind of an afterthought when somebody was bored and ran out of things to do. But through our partnership with the Chamber and the ability to produce, I guess, documented five-star rental experiences, we've grown. We're nearly 100 rental units strong now between campers, scooters, canoes, kayaks, paddleboards, things that I didn't even know existed 5 years ago, we now rent out. We're just short of 2,000 rental contracts this year. We are a standalone rental company, and I will say with pride and facts to back it up, we now are one of the reasons people do come to Clear Lake. We got a ton of folks that call us, make the reservations, get the ball rolling, and then they're asking us for our favorite restaurants, of which we always chime in on because we've got them. So needless to say, when this all kind of blew up a week or so ago, and I received my first communication with Scott Fleury that said Movement Solutions boats might not be allowed on the public docks, I was, needless to say, more than upset. We had a meeting a few days later, and the chief of police, who I didn't really know what had anything to do with docks, but apparently he does, he had told me in that meeting that if the city chose to, I think the words he used, could ban me from the docks, and I could be arrested if I were to show up in the docks with my customers for my boats. It was not a good day, and I will say it just added to this really not being a very good experience so far for a town that I will say we have had, and to this point, had a wonderful experience. So if I understand the correction and the intentions tonight, I really kind of left my list off of any problems that I particularly had with the ordinance. I will just say that there are numerous things that ordinance will do that will inflict great harm to only our business. It won't affect anybody else in town. It won't, and I'm not about that guy that thinks we should be the only guy. We're the little guy in town. The sleeping giant's still across the lake. And they do a great job too. But the yacht clubs and the boating clubs and everybody seems to be taken care of in this except Movement Solutions. And it seems to be an extreme measure to me. But nevertheless, I understand it's going to go into Parks and Rec, and I think that's probably a good place to start if there were going to be able to have some conversations about what is, if there is, from the perceived problem, a real problem, and solutions that make sense that could help not only our business, everybody else's perception of that dock, and the customers, the people. We can't forget those people that we are bringing to town. So in closing, I just want to share one little bit of final irony that didn't hit me till about, I guess it hit me last night a little bit, and then this morning I thought of it and I couldn't help but chuckle. So I thought, here on the day, which, by the way, if you can't tell, first city council meeting, never done this gig before. On the very day that the council is going to consider doing an ordinance that would take away or could extremely limit and inhibit 70% of our income, and eliminate Lord knows how many people from being able to use Clear Lake like they've used it in the last few years that we've been here. On the very, very single day, the Chamber of Commerce had secured 2 boats from us, and we put them in the water this morning for the film crew. The same film crew that the city, I'm sure, paid through the Chamber to make sure we do a really good video to bring the public in, to bring more tourism in. And they used our boat to film for people having fun on Clear Lake. And I find there's a lot of irony there that if this ordinance was passed, I couldn't provide those boats today. Only one of my boats could be on that dock at one particular time because it's still viewed that those are my boats, even though they're in the possession of a renter that's paid me for them. So I've got a lot of comments on that, but tonight's not the time, and I understand that. So I do appreciate everybody's time, but I really, at the end of the day, I'll always figure out something. I mean, we've been self-employed 35 years. We'll always figure out our way. But I just cannot understand why my customers in a rental boat that have come from Omaha, Nebraska, or Chicago, Illinois, I've got to tell them now, when you go out, you can't come back. If you pull up and one of my boats is sitting here, you can't come in and go to eat at Gijo's, although it's wonderful pizza. And it just seems like an unenforceable, insane thing to even ask a customer to do when we're trying so hard to bring them in. So I thank you for your time, and that's all I got. Unless you have some questions for me.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Council, do you have any comments, questions?
Yes, Mayor, I've got a few thoughts, if I could, here. I appreciate folks being here from Movement Solutions, and I want to say thank you to our staff and Scott Fleury for putting the ordinance together. I think, from my perception, what he's tried to do here, and I think successfully, is to balance some competing interests, meaning we've invested in a dock, a city dock down there, a wonderful addition, frankly, to the community. And my view is that incidental commercial usage should be allowed and not preference from one business or another. But I think when we get into a position where we're allowing a particular business to, say, have several boats down there at the same time, it becomes more of a private marina, and that would be my concern. I think businesses like this, I guess, I don't know if you have a private dock or not, but I think, this is kind of the issue that we get into with a business operating this type of thing. So I just want to say I do support referring this to the Park and Rec Board for further discussion. But like I said, I think we have to be careful that we don't allow this to turn into a private marina. We do appreciate the business that Movement Solutions is doing, so I want to make that clear. But I think we also have to balance that competing interest with the interests of everybody else. So if it would become kind of abusive, if we did pass the ordinance, I think my position would be, if we had to move toward banning commercial usage, we could take a hard look at that. I would, because of our investment in that dock. But I hope what we can do here in referring it to Park and Rec is come up with a sensible solution for everybody. So just my thoughts, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like to first state that this present council, past council, present administration, past administrations have always been pro-business. I thank you for bringing your business to town. But I do not approve of the use of public-funded dock at the end of Main Street and seawall being utilized by any commercial business. This dock was intended for recreational purposes only by the general public. I'm glad that we're going to move this on to Park and Board, get their recommendation. But if this ordinance should come back in front of this council in the future and contains verbiage for a commercial business, then my vote will simply be no.
Any other comments, council? Not appearing, I'll entertain a motion to refer the Main Avenue Seawall Dock Ordinance to Park and Recreation Advisory Board for recommendation to come back to the City Council on meeting August 3rd. I believe that is the first Monday in August. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
By Bennett, seconded by Gary, that we approve the motion to refer this particular ordinance proposal to Park and Rec Advisory Board. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all on that discussion. Chief, Captain, report.
Good evening. You can see from your numbers that you have in your back there that we're full swing into summer with our numbers. Our call for service is up every month. January, we kind of had a little lull there in March with the COVID kicking off, but April, May, and June were increasing by 100 to 200 calls for service a month there. Our biggest increased calls probably in traffic related to traffic in town, crashes, traffic stops, other parking complaints, and we go in there. I don't know if there's any questions on the monthly report there, but another couple things that are going on, if later on, with the city's early retirement package, we do have a Paul Cheney will be retiring at the end of a 32-year career, which is unheard of. Stay with one department for 32 years in job, so we are looking at what will our next steps will be to fill the big shoes as we go through the promotional process, what that would look like. And then we are also going through the process with adding a dispatcher, because we will have a dispatcher needs watch now, and so Aaron and the chief are going through that process now. They had the initial interviews last week, so vetting through those interviews, and we'll be calling back the candidates that went through that process and passed that vetting process for the next follow-up interviews. We got a very large pool of candidates with respect to these groups. We have some very good candidates.
Do we still have what, 2 officers injured?
We do, Officer Cat Meyer, hopefully about another week and a half, but he'll be back, August 3rd, so 2 weeks. Hopefully he'll be back, and then Officer Hall has another 3.5 weeks left of light duty, so maybe we'll get you this thing. PT for that.
Council, any questions, Captain? Thank you. Under Mayor's report, Chad with North Iowa Corridor, you're on.
Hi, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor and Council. Appreciate your time tonight and really some cool, exciting things on the agenda tonight. I was really pleased to be a part of helping put that application together for the Sunset Housing Development with ECHO and with Scott, and really excited to see that come through. I think that's going to be an awesome development on South 15th and at Sunset. ECHO's a heck of a group. And it's fun to follow along on YouTube here and watching the Wellness Center. That is going to be a showpiece. I think that's the kind of place that when we have prospects, we have people coming to town to visit, just anybody that's interested in this community, that's the kind of thing that helps set us apart. So just excited to see that moving forward. And again, it's such a cool partnership with the city and the community and the school. So looking forward to that moving forward. As it relates to things with our Vision North Iowa partnership and our COVID response, we're continuing to move forward on the Massive Wellness campaign. The Chambers of Commerce, ourselves, and various other groups are continuing to promote that. A week or 2 ago, we started the process of providing businesses that sign up for that initiative to become a Massive Wellness business with a kit that includes face masks and other materials, signage, and things of that nature for becoming a part of that. And again, encouraging their employees and people coming through their building to wear masks and practice all of the proper social distancing and hygiene and everything else. I think that's incredibly important, especially as we've seen the numbers rise and increase. You know, we started the campaign around the tagline, you know, public health is economic health, and I think we've all seen that. Obviously, if our people aren't healthy, if we're having these outbreaks, it's going to impact our businesses negatively. So it has been good to see a really strong response to that. I think we've gotten about 40 or more businesses signed up for that program already. So really appreciate that response and continue to encourage businesses to be a part of that. We also are in the process with that group of putting together a 30-second video or commercial. The Mason City Chamber is helping put that piece of it together, but we'll have representatives from each of the chambers, the corridor, Lori at the Surf, and various other businesses and organizations making comments, encouraging people to wear their masks and do that. And KMT gave us a great deal on that. So that'll be running for about 4 weeks, I think starting next week. So be on the lookout for that. And again, continue to encourage your businesses and others to do that. Again, just for everybody's benefit, to keep things going. We have seen our unemployment rate has continued to improve from its peak of about 11.5% here about 3 months ago. We are back under 9%, so we are seeing some positive signs there. We also received a copy from the state. We had done a survey with them statewide with businesses, and we got the results back for our county. 180 businesses responded to that, and it was encouraging to see over half of them had applied for the federal PPP funding, and of those, over 92% received funds. So that was really encouraging to see. The large majority of those businesses have received either federal or state or local funds. So again, we've been able to get a lot of assistance targeted at our businesses and bring outside dollars into the county, which has been really positive. And again, we've been fortunate not to see any major layoffs or closures or things of that nature. So we can hope that continues and we can see positive things for our businesses. It has been encouraging on the project activity side. In the last month, we've been getting a lot of direct communications, calls from businesses with large projects. Just last week, we had 2 sizable ones contact us, and literally one of them contacted us on a Thursday and actually wanted to meet on a Saturday morning, a week ago Saturday, to look at some of our sites. So So that's been encouraging to see. It does seem like businesses outside the area are noticing what we've done, how our area's responded, and so we're looking forward to that. Again, a lot of potential opportunities there. So, God willing, we'll keep moving forward. We'll keep on pushing for activity and progress, and hopefully we'll be on the other side of this thing soon.
Council, any questions for Chad? Thanks much, Chad, appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Couple more things here, excuse me, under Mayor's report. I happened to talk with Mike Oyman, Golf Course Superintendent and Clubhouse Manager. They are up, I believe, 50 members in membership, and the number of green fees are way up compared to last year. Of course, as we all know, everybody seems to be coming out of the woodwork just to get out of the house, for one. But this is a real good sign for the golf course, whose property we own, and proud to fact that a number of years ago we put a nonprofit group together out there, and they kind of run that on their own very profitably, you might say. So that's very, very good news. Last thing, as Chad indicated, you know, I think I once again need to remind us all, even though I don't have mine on at the present time, you know, I came in with the mask on, so we are wearing all a mask here at City Hall, in the library, and we expect people to come in that way. Obviously, it's their choice at this point in time, but once again, social distancing is extremely important. Make sure, like Mom used to tell us, wash your hands, what is it, twice to happy birthday to you, or whatever it is. Disinfect all areas and mask up, especially when you get into large groups, or avoid those large groups altogether. The last thing, I have a proclamation recognizing H. Milton Duesenberg, our archivist at the Clear Lake Public Library, commonly known as H. And this is short. Whereas H. Milton Duesenberg began working at the library on October 18th, 2005 in the history room, and whereas during his 14 years of service, worked to preserve valuable collections of Clear Lake, Iowa history by evaluating, retrieving, and arranging materials, answering hundreds of inquiries, storing and preserving perishable documents, promoting Clear Lake history through programs and presentations to the community, negotiating the acquisition of new collections, and making the archives accessible to everyone. And whereas on July 4th of 2015, he served as Grand Marshal of the annual parade, and whereas has the respect of his colleagues who know him as a steady, dependable co-worker and friend who takes pride in his work and in this community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, as mayor, City of Clear Lake, do hereby express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Duesenberg for his dedication and commitment to this community, and congratulate him on the occasion of his retirement. Well done, H. Thank you. Move on to Public Works Director's report. Mr. Weigel, are you there?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
You can speak up just a little bit.
All right. Just a couple updates on our project. 7th Avenue North Storm Sewer. The main line was completed a day after our last council meeting. They've been working on the private side of that work, and I believe they probably got a half a day or day left on that. And then the private side will finish up on the paving improvements in order to pick up that drainage from that site. East Main Avenue reconstruction project is moving along quite well. They're probably ahead of schedule. Weather obviously has helped. They got all the sanitary sewer main in that first phase done. The services are tied in. They got 3/4 of the main line water main in. They'll finish up that main line tomorrow, load it, and pressure test and bacteria test in a couple days, and then work on services by the end of the week. And then two tomorrow. The next day, they'll start on the rest of the removals there along the south side, and start installing the 24-inch storm sewer. So if things go well, by the end of the week, you know, a good portion of the underground could be done. It may go into early next week. And then they'll follow up with the grading and rock base. So initially, I think this first phase was scheduled to be wrapping up around August 10th. So things continue the way they are, they'll be in advance of that, which would be a plus. So that's all, Your Honor.
Council, any questions, Mr. Weigel?
Yeah, Joe, how many sanitary services do we have to replace? Do you have any idea?
I believe all of them, but one or two of them were PVC. So I think there was a couple Orangeburg, you know, some of them were clay, but there were two newer lines that were just replaced here in the last 5 to 6 years. And then this is kind of a weird phase, the south side of the road, there weren't any sewer services because they either go to the side street. There were bigger lots and stuff. So obviously, as we go down in the future phases, you know, they'll have services on both sides, which will take a little bit more time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Council? Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Mr. Flory, City Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Just going to give you a quick update. We started the advertisement process here a while ago for the office clerk position. We've got about 30 resumes and applications in for that position. Jennifer's kind of heading up that process. I know Bennett's sitting in on the interviews, and so are Hope and Aaron from the office. So again, I think we only advertise that through our website and social media, so that's a pretty good response. I think some of what Chad said with the unemployment rate being what it is with the pandemic situation, I think probably has resulted in you know, a pretty good crop of applicants for that position. You know, looking for, I think, a good employer and stability, and so I think they're interviewing 5 for that position. I've looked at those, and frankly, any of the 5 would be we'd be lucky to get any of the 5. They're very, very good applicants, so happy to report that. Chief stole my thunder here a minute ago on the early retirement program. So yes, Paul Chizek is going to be retiring. He's going to be retiring towards the end of August after 32 years with the department, and like Mike said, that is a significant career in law enforcement, and in particular with one department for sure. We had 3 employees who are eligible to participate under that early retirement incentive program, and all 3 have opted to participate. So Public Works Director is also participating, and be done towards the end of September, and likewise the Finance Officer, Linda Nelson. So you know, we'll be talking more about both Joe and Linda here later on, but you know, I've been here 19 years, and there have not 2 people been more meaningful to me in my career than those 2. And so they've had marvelous public service here. Joe's been here over almost 31 and a half years, I believe, and Linda's pushing nearly 31 years. So again, that kind of public service is really fantastic. So salute them and the careers that they've had. I think they've been exemplary in the work that they've done for the community and for our organization. So we'll have to start the process, of course, and it'll be difficult, to say the least, daunting for sure, to replace all 3 of these folks and start working on the position profile for the finance officer, and I got it completed, and I read it and went through it all, and I thought, who on earth am I going to find to do all of this? You know, this is a significant position for sure. So, but again, we'll do the best we can. So. And that's all I have.
Council, any questions, Mr. Flory?